All right, let's take a look at implementing some of our newfound Excel functions here. So I'm just looking at some original prices. I'm going to do some discounts and see what the sale price is. And notice that my original price here, we can see it up in the formula bar, but it's cut off here. So there's a couple ways to deal with that. One is to wrap the text around, which is this ABC with the little arrow button there, wrap text. If I do that, it's just going to make the cell bigger so that I can see that. The alternative is you can take this cell and just widen it out. You just go in between, A and B. That's just going to tell you how you want to stretch things out. If you want to have multiple columns be the same width, you can highlight all of them and then in between two of them, stretch that out, and now it's going to make all of them that same width. So anyway, that's just a kind of a visual thing. So discount, let's say, I don't know, a store is running some sort of nice promotion where it's 30% off. And this is just asking me, hey, what's your discount percent? So I'm kind of filling in this. So this is going to be some reference that I'm making. So for starters, right, this thing is given as a percentage. I probably want to be careful when I'm calculating these different things. We're going to do this a few times in the course. So we may want to think about this as discount as a decimal, which just means that we are taking whatever this percentage is and moving the decimal over two places or dividing by 100. So 30%, 30 per 100, we can think equals 30 divided by 100, right? We know we need the equal sign, and that's going to tell Excel, hey, can you calculate this for me? Again, we see that decimal got cut off here, so if we want to move that over a little bit, that's fine. And so we would input this data, and because I made a reference, or sorry, because I did not make a reference, I just typed this in. If I change the number above, let's say it's only a 20% discount, this doesn't change. But if I want to make sure that if I change the first number, the second one changes with it, I can just remove this number and say, well, let me click on the cell it's referencing. And so now if I change this from 30, or so 20 back to 30, this will change automatically to 0.3. So I'm actually going to remove this highlighting and say, hey, you know what? The only thing we actually need to fill in is here. And then the rest of this is going to fill in for us if we make the right references. So the discount, right? The discount is whatever our percentage is, 30% of the original price. So we're just going to say, okay, it equals, instead of doing 30 times 12, we're going to do the decimal version, 0.3 times 12. So the discount for this item, right? And I'm clicking on the cells instead of doing this by hand because I want to be able to drag these down. So B2, and it's even giving you a color, it's in blue, and then A5, that's in red. I hit enter, so I get 3.6. And we can think about all these as dollar amounts. If we want to actually call out that they're dollar amounts, we can certainly do that. We can highlight these cells and say, hey, you know what? I want to have this being dollars and cents, and then it'll round it to two decimal places for us. Okay, so now that I have that formula, and anytime you want to see it, if you just click on the cell, you'll see it up here in the bar. If you want to edit it, you want to click up there in the formula bar. Just be careful, because then if you're clicking up here, anywhere else you click, it's going to think you want to include it in there. So just kind of be mindful of that. Anyway, so there's our discount for the first item. And if you want to include, sure, these are dollar amounts too. And actually our sale prices, yes, those will also be dollar amounts. They don't show up if you don't have any values in there though. Okay, so now that we have this formula for the first one, we say, cool, maybe I can drag this thing down. So let me show you what happens if I drag this down. Oh, we get all kinds of trouble, right? We get some values that don't show up, some errors, some really huge values. I don't know how it went from 99 to 42,000. So that's because if I click on this cell, if I look at the formula, it is referencing things I do not want it to reference. So I do want to be looking at the original price, but I want to keep going back to this 0.3, the discount decimal. So when I was up here in this original cell, yes, I want the red one to keep moving down, right? That's a relative reference. The red one is relative, so I don't need to do anything to that. But B2, cell B2, this decimal, I want it to be a fixed reference or an absolute reference. So I need to use those dollar signs. I need to say, hey, B2 is the cell that I want to keep every time. Now, as soon as I do that, I can drag this down, and we see that there's this little box in the bottom right corner. So you can either grab from that box in the bottom right corner, or you can double click on it and it'll fill down just like that. So these are the discounts. And of course, if I change this number, if I say, well, instead we're only doing a 25% discount, it's going to do a couple things. It's going to change my decimal for I haven't hit enter yet, but as soon as I do, it should change this decimal to 0.25 and it should change all these discounts. So let's hit enter and see. Cool. So we saw everything change. I'm going to go back to 30 just because I'm wanting to use that as my discount. And then, okay, sale price. Well, what's the actual price that we're selling these items for, right? Because we're not selling them for 30% of the price. That's how much we're taking off. So if we say, well, my original price was 12, I want to subtract this discount to get the new price, the sale price. Well, that sure sounds like just a basic subtraction. So I'm doing cell A5 minus cell B5. And right, don't forget that equal sign. Anytime you want to do a formula, just make sure you're telling Excel, hey, this is a formula, so equals whatever. All right, I hit enter, and that looks, sure enough, like 12 minus 3.6, and it's 840. I can try again. I can either drag these down or double click that bottom right, and let's just see if these numbers seem to make sense. I usually like to choose one of these along the way and just make sure, like, hey, are you doing the right thing? So if I click on the formula bar, it'll tell me here are the cells I'm referencing. So A8, the blue one, 120, minus B8, the red one, 36. So, okay, 120 minus 36 sure looks like $84. So that's looking like we're in good shape. So we had, right, in the discount, we needed to use that absolute reference because we were talking about this particular discount. In the sale price, we only had relative references because we said, you know what, I want to go down each line, a price corresponding with its discount, and that's going to give me the new sale price. Cool. We may also want to do things like, I don't know, let's suppose these were all items that we were shopping for, or we wanted to shop for. So maybe we wanted to figure out what the original, whoops, if I could spell that, original total, before the discounts. So I'm going to do a $sign again, but we can add up. So we can use the equals sum function that was introduced in an earlier video. We can highlight all of these. So I just click and hold down, and then I close out the parentheses, hit enter. So originally I would have paid $512. Let's look at the new total. So again, I'll make it a $sign there. Cool. Do equals sum. So I'm going to add up all of these sale prices, the discounted prices. And instead of paying $512, we are paying $358.40. Of course, we could always do a quick check and say, well, is that actually true that $512 with a 30% discount? So this should be the discount. We can say, well, is this total $512 minus the discount that I'm calculating? Yeah, it sure is. So you can always just verify things in an empty cell. I like to do that sometimes. You could also calculate the total discount, right? Just sum up all of the items in the discount column. And we know, again, from a previous video, if I change any one of these, it's going to automatically, because of the references I made, it's going to change the discount, the sale price, and these totals that I made. So let's say this $12 item instead was a, I don't know, $60 item. We're going to see things change all over the place, right? Only the ones that were referencing that particular cell. But that is kind of the basic idea. If we need to do anything else, there's not a need with these items to do a whole lot else. But of course, we could multiply these items. So I could say, well, let me take this number times this number times this number divided by this number minus this number. So all those usual values that we're used to doing, we could certainly do that. But right, again, with sale prices, not really a need to do any of that. Just showing us, since we did use multiplication, we used addition, we used subtraction. So it looks like we have kind of some basic ideas, but we can expand from there. The only other piece, of course, worth mentioning is histograms. So if we wanted to make a histogram, let's say, of our sale prices, we could grab these guys. I will say histograms, you have to have your data in one row or one column. So if you have it across, in a broader format, you have to reformat those. So keep that in mind. But these are already in one column, so that's fine. So I'm going to insert, and then I'm going to go to this guy, histogram, and it's kind of an ugly one. right? There's only 2 bars here. We don't have that much data, so it's going to be a little tricky. Now, depending on which system you're using, if you have a PC or Mac, these are going to operate a little differently. So for mine, I need to click on this horizontal axis here, and I can right click and click Format Axis, and I can change things like, oh, the bin width or something like that. So this tells me how wide do I want those bins to be, or the number of bins. Let's say I wanted to have 5 bins. I can do 5 and hit enter, right? And that'll change what's going on here. These values are kind of ugly. One of the previous videos showed you how to use the bin width and the overflow and underflow to kind of mess with these. Chart title, of course, we can mess with the title of this, sales prices. So there's any number of things that we can do here to mess with these, but again, this is a little bit of what I might say is, you know, it's going to take some toying around just to get used to, like, what do each of these things do, get a little bit of practice in that. Text options, you have some stuff there. So anyway, there's all these different values, but this is at least a quick intro. And again, I will remind you one more time, if you're doing histograms, it has to be in a single column or a single row.